It's time. We've made it to the final government quest in PSO Episode 1. Welcome to the Abyss, folks. Today we conclude PSO Lore's foray into Episode 1 government quests. Sort of. This may be a unique quest in that it's going to be the last, but it will begin as all quests do. We will start by heading to the Pioneer 2 bridge and speaking to Momoka and scrolling down to Government Quest 4-5, Dark Inheritance, and reading the quest description.
Get to the bottom of the ruins. The answer must lie there.
Select the quest to read the expanded quest description.
Whatever is down in those sealed ruins is what brings this all together.
Accepting the quest will once again finally yeet us into dialogue with Principal Tyrell.
Hunter Voidmon 3Y, thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
This is quite possibly the last set of orders I will have for you. Here's the situation, as plainly as I can put it. The underground ruins found buried in the first place, and the reason for the seal at its entrance, well, brace yourself. The lab believes that this place is actually a huge spaceship, built specifically to seal something in.
Jeez, you're not holding back for this one, are you?
And now that the seal's been broken, that something is loose. If we don't do anything about it, a real disaster could be on our hands. Since we don't have any idea how to remake that seal, that leaves us with only one recourse. We must destroy whatever it is we let loose.
Hey, now we're talking. Let's strap up and ship out.
You're the only one to whom I can entrust this task. Our future is in your hands, Voidmon 3Y. As always, Irene can give you the details. I'm counting on you.
Talk about giving me the feels. And now, to talk to Irene for possibly the last time ever.
There's nothing more for me to say, really.
What a wild twist of events. You got nothing for me.
The principal has told you everything this time. I wish I could say for sure that we knew what was going to happen here. All we can do, though, is believe that you can deal with this dire situation. The more we learn about those ruins, the more frightening it seems. It's just so... Good luck.
That's it? Okay then. On to Science Guy 1. The Heart of the Ruins. Not to be confused with the Heart of the Cards, although PSO does have a card game too. Anyway, sorry to interrupt you, Science Guy 1, but still, Dang, so much stammering. How about you, Science Guy 2?
That which sleeps is in the heart of the ruins. It must be the key to this whole mess. As a scientist, I'm so curious, but reason tells me that it's dangerous. I still say that we need to get away from this planet at once.
But dude, our homeworld Coral is headed to the pits, and meanwhile, we traveled across the cosmos for years to get here. Anyway, with all of the bigwigs having been talked to, we'll head on down to the Ruins 1 to start this final mission. There aren't any new enemies this time around, so I won't do too much explaining of all the same types of enemies we've seen thus far in the ruins. However, we will get the complete suite of Rico messages, so even though we've already read some of them on previous missions, I'll go through all of them as we come across them because they tell an interesting story if you read them in the correct sequence. So in short, lore reasons. Anyway, after fighting through the first few rooms, you'll find the first message left by Rico.
Why am I here, with monsters lurking everywhere? Did the army even stand a chance against them?
The next room will have a big pit, and there will be another message from Rico right next to it.
What is this big hole? It looks like remnants of some type of energy explosion? Energy? Was the central dome destroyed by this?
After this, there will be a couple more notes explaining how to get past Delsabers and one of the traps unique to the ruins, before finding the next story node in a room with some debris.
Wreckage! These weapons are from Pioneer 1. They must have already entered the ruins, and from the look of things, fighting went on. It must have been a big battle. Seems our army was hurt badly.
I think it's worth pointing out at this point that despite the wreckage left by destroyed weapons, there don't seem to be any bodies lying around, hinting at something else having happened to the soldiers that fell in battle. Something perhaps similar to the lack of survivors and bodies of colonizers we've seen thus far. In any case, the next node will explain Dimensions, but the following room will return us to the familiar view of the massive subterranean city in the ruins, along with the node describing it.
I can see a distant view through this window. The ruins are huge. I would never have imagined such a great civilization.
Interestingly enough, we have already learned by this point that the ruins are actually an enormous spaceship. In any case, the next room will have another message, which may sound familiar.
Those strange characters were found here and there. I think I have enough samples to decipher the meaning of the message on this monument. Light makes darkness. A pair exists, but it doesn't always exist. Reincarnation goes forever. The rule is here. It should be sealed. Moot Dietz Pomen. Does it make sense? I wish I had enough time to study these unknown characters.
Ah, yes, the curious mystery of Moot Dietz Pomen. Anyway, moving on. The next node will be a tip about the Chaos Sorcerers, and that will be the final message before moving on to the Ruins 2. Knowing that the Ruins is actually a giant ship, and coming to the Ruins 2 explains the interior of the structure in a way that makes more sense once you know the full breadth of it. The rooms and corridors do seem like the internal structure of a ship, with moving parts, hoses, and vents all over the place. And it won't take much exploring until you find the first node of the second floor in a room with 4 forks.
I haven't studied all of the characters, but I've got some useful information. This is the most important fact that I have found. There was no ancient civilization on Ragol. We didn't discover ruins. This is a spaceship. A gigantic spaceship.
You don't say. Well, we already knew that, but moving on. The next room will be a large room with turbines, and at the other side of the room is the next Rico message.
Still moving. The ship's still operating.
And not to leave us hanging, the very next hallway will have another message. But, unfortunately, it's just an explanation on the dangers of the Chaos Bringer. And 2 rooms later, there will be yet another message node, which is simply advice for dealing with Dark Gunners. Lame. However, the very next room after that will have yet another story node.
I'm now inside the ancient spaceship. Well, it's not just a spaceship, it's a casket. Something or somebody was sealed in the spaceship to remain buried here. What is it? Why was something buried in such a manner? Anyway, I know a monster is sleeping in this cave. We've opened the forbidden door.
Hey, those are some actually good questions, and something tells me we're going to get answers soon. But before that, we will fight through a few more rooms before we get to the next message node in front of one of those big crystal monuments with alien glyphs.
I want to run away, but I have no place to return to. Perhaps no one will ever find this message and listen to it, ever. Pioneer 2 will not come down when they discover that this planet is dangerous. Will somebody from Pioneer 2 still come to save us? Who knows? Regardless, I leave this message here. This is evidence of my existence.
Geez, so depressing. If only she knew we're literally right behind her, since she was evidently leaving these messages after the destruction of the central dome. Which, just to remind you, we witnessed in the opening cutscene as the Pioneer 2 arrived to Ragol. And just as fitting as this worrisome message, the telepad to the Ruins 3 will be in the next room. We may already be familiar with the 3rd floor of the ruins since we already had some missions here, but just to analyze it more closely, the walls and ceiling seem alive as a purple haze fills the cobweb-lined corridors. There's living organic growth, like organ tissue growing throughout this floor, suggesting some sort of techno-organic takeover, similar to the description I gave of the final room in the previous mission. Early on into the exploration of the Ruins 3, there will be yet another message node in front of yet another monument, which reads,
Dark Falz, that's the name. The god of destruction that revives in the millennial cycle. Perhaps this entity encountered a civilization thousands of years ago. They could not defeat it, but managed to seal it in this gigantic spaceship. They abandoned it somewhere far from their planet. It was this place, Ragol. We've come to a terrible place, at the worst possible time.
Further into the creepy sci-fi horror scene, there will be another monument with a cryptic message node.
Dark Falz is a consciousness. This entity has no body.
Well, that's all we're getting from this one, but after fighting through a number of combat rooms, we'll come to another message left haphazardly in a hallway.
I miss my father. I wasn't a very good daughter, was I? Is my father okay now?
Not much to this one in terms of content. But man, it sure does say a lot more in those few lines than many of the previous nodes, or even entire missions. You really got a feel for the Tyrells in moments like this. The third floor will continue to be sparse with messages, as we'll have to fight through several more combat rooms before coming to the next message node left in front of a monument.
Don't let it come in. The dark consciousness looks for the best animal to obtain its temporal host body.
Well, I guess as a cast, I'm safe then, right? Also, yay, body snatchers, my favorite. At least it doesn't sound like it's on the same scale as those head crabs from Half-Life. As you continue to explore the depths of the Ruins 3, you will eventually come into a small room dedicated to one message node. The message reads,
The door is already opened. We opened it. This may be the beginning of the end of the universe. We have to do something. We must do it. We have to defeat it now. Defeat it before that dark thing revives with the perfect body.
Wait, end of the universe? This is all starting to sound way more grandiose than it did when it was just the destruction of the Pioneer 1 and all of its crew. The end of the whole universe? Imagine that. We're all just minding our own business on Earth, and then because of some weird mind crab on a planet far, far away, the universe just ends? In any case, at least now we know the stakes if we fail. Although I guess we don't really know what we have to do at this point. In any case, once we move on from this room, we'll come back to that final room with the gross brain walls from the last mission. We'll have to fight through a lot of enemies here again, but once they're defeated, the path to the boss telepad will be clear. Unlike the previous boss rooms, instead of being teleported to an even deeper level of the ruins, we're brought to a pleasant valley clearing with a giant obelisk in the middle, as well as what looks like a plaque for a grave surrounded by flowers. It almost seems like the perfect place for a picnic. On walking up to the monument, however, the pleasant scene will vanish and be replaced by a valley of death and decay with screaming faces on the ground. There will be a bunch of Beyblade-type things trying to kill us with chip damage, but after you take a few down, they'll all collapse, and the monument will reappear briefly before a giant beast with a smaller body coming out of its torso, and the entire thing sitting on top of 3 giant Dune-inspired sandworms that are conjoined to the monster at the waist will pop up. Very cosmic horror-y? In any case, this is Dark Falz. Warning for the wise, Dark Falz will have an ice attack that freezes you, so going in with a freeze resist will be helpful, as the boss will continue to attack you for lots of damage, even when you're frozen. I'd also recommend keeping your health topped up just in case he freezes you anyway. I'd also recommend using a ranged weapon or magic and aiming solely for the middle giant sandworm mouth, which will eject more of those evil Beyblades. It's a pretty linear fight if you approach it this way and avoid death by freezing. After dropping the health of Dark Falz all the way to 0, you will predictably change into a second form, at which point you'll have to fight the second phase. The sandworm legs just kind of get replaced by a floating flesh ball, and the main torso sprouts wings. This next phase's strategy will be to circle the arena and stop occasionally to cast fireballs, earthquakes, or freeze spells. This phase is pretty easy, however, even though Dark Falz does massive damage because he takes a lot of time between attacks, which gives you plenty of time to recover and also do more damage. He does have a large health pool, but eventually you'll take him down and see Rico's signature weapon, a red ring, drop to the ground in place of Dark Falz. Furthermore, you'll be rewarded with a splash screen for all of the hunters who helped you through the mission. And since this is a mission tree not a lot of people do, it's most likely just going to be you. But you can get the same screen and fanfare just by playing through the Ruins stage without doing any missions, and the cool song rewarded as fanfare is the song that's currently playing on this video. There is also a third phase if you play on higher difficulties, but we'll leave that for another video. There isn't much more left to do from here, other than pick up loot and take the final red telepad back to the Pioneer 2 to hand the quest into... Wait a second. To be continued. Thanks so much for making it this far into the video, folks. This one is a lot bigger than the previous quests, as you can tell, but I just wanted to thank you so much for making it this far, and also staying past the black screen. The next video in the series will be a compilation of all of the Ruins quests, and from there on we will be picking up the single-player story quest that I began so long ago, and didn't continue after the first quest. So with all of that out of the way, please like this video and subscribe if you aren't already. I'm looking forward to going on the next chapter of our PSO lore videos with all of you. Until next time, folks, have fun and stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye!